who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavang, it does. They need me.
Welcome guys, End of Dragons Daily 91. Footage in the background will continue to be my playthrough of the recent Bitterfrost Frontier stuff. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of Marionette in there as well, but there's so much to get through, and I want to start showing you guys this Soul Beast build that I've been playing a lot of with the dagger. You know, if there's any one weapon that I have, or set of weapon skills, one weapon profession combo that I've really not touched on at all throughout the game's life, I think it's Soul Beast Dagger. You know, I never see people fighting against me using it in PvP or World vs. World. I've never used it in PvE, really, even though I know obviously there have been opportunities, so it's kind of new for me. It's really, really cool. The other thing I've kind of been doing in-game is, actually, I finally made my World vs. World back piece. Here you go, I have Warbringer, and in fact, it's after the Legendary Lore UI came in, so a little preview of a project I'll be doing later on today. I want to read all of this lore out to you guys, so keep an eye out on the channel for that video. Warbringer is made from the salvaged remnants of enemies fallen, emblazoned with swords and spears pulled from still-worn corpses. It's a reminder of battles won and lost, whispers of victory. They don't really give us anything tangible there, but some of the lore on the other ones really do seem to be hinting at fun and cool things. Another thing I want you guys to keep an eye out on as well, over on my second channel, all 12 hours of the entire Zhaitan death story as they were streamed are now up. The 4 hours I did with the Marionette are up, and do keep an eye out on my Twitch over the next couple of weeks, because I'm thinking of finally kicking up a project over there that I've been circling for a while we wait for the new PC and stuff. That's Final Fantasy XIV, as well as some new Guild Wars projects too. So if you're interested in those, I'm even really tempted to do a Stellaris Nemesis playthrough on there. I kind of want to do like a variety gaming thing and see how that works, because I've never played around with that. So if any of that sounds fun to you guys, you can pause the video. In the description there's a link to my Twitch. Go over there, click follow, it'll notify you when I go live. I'll also notify people in the guild and Discord and Twitter or wherever. So let's jump in. One of the big topics yesterday was about the idea that they might have been teasing the monk. One follow-up comment here I've got from Vincent. A lot of you guys suggested this. You know that the monk doesn't need a new weapon to have fist or knuckle skills. They might just have stance of justice, stance of resolve, stance of courage for F skills to toggle different stances, like Hollow Forge or Firebrand Tomes changing their weapon skills. Yeah, they could definitely do this. And it's funny, I saw a lot of people saying, oh, I really want a brawler spec. I really want something that uses its fists and fights. It's like, well, hold on. There are elements of the Berserker, like with headbutt and stuff, that really feel like that. There's elements of Core Warrior. I mean, what is Rampage, guys? It's a brawling fist user. You know, it already is that unarmed combat thing. Someone else mentioned that there have been several places in the game, I think they pointed out an Auric Basin example, where you can like kind of use your fists. And it's like, this stuff kind of is in game already. It's just not packaged in a certain way, and that's so often true with Guild Wars 2. People have a desire that they think is like totally new, and often it's not. It's just that you haven't like interfaced with the part of the game that's already giving it to you. And I really think in a lot of ways that's the essence of this discussion here, isn't it, really? I kind of want a weapon that leans into that, because that's a package people can immediately understand and feels new, even if it does already kind of cross the lines of a lot of stuff that's already going on. And to be honest, I'm always kind of unsatisfied with them faking it, so to speak, like the Rampage methodology. Like when you're a Reaper and you're in Shroud, you kind of have a scythe, right? Like, and lots of, even when you auto attack with a staff on a Necro, it's kind of like a scythe thing, but it's not a scythe. I want a real scythe, you know? I know it's superficial, I know it's arbitrary, but maybe not so. Maybe there's something more tangible if you just go fully in on the idea and, yeah, properly implementing like Knuckles or something. I don't know. It captivates me in a way that these other elements of the game don't. Does anyone else feel that way? So let's get into the big topic for today. It's about this screenshot here. Which you guys can look and soak up and enjoy. This is our first image of Cantha, and I've gathered a bunch of messages specifically about this from you guys on the previous part. Let's open here with Kira Tastic, who says, broke, screenshot from the beginning of Xingji, woke, screenshot from whining is from the outskirts of the Jade Sea, or the areas surrounding Kaineng. Okay, so yeah, big topic. First of all, where is this? I've read a ton of takes from you guys. Some of you think it's like Saitang Harbor. I saw someone said Ran Musu Gardens. I've seen lots of people obviously saying the monastery. I think it's the monastery, guys. So let me just rewind a second. There's probably a lot of people watching who don't really know any of the Guild Wars 1 locations. Basically, there is a starter island off the shores of the mainland on Cantha. That island is called Xingji, and it had kind of a very rural aesthetic. It was lots of rice paddies and kind of green fields nestled against mountainous climbs, you know, that got very snowy, and there were lots of little like outback shrines and all kinds of cubby holes and fun architecture for you to explore. A lot of the places you'd go felt actually quite rich and wealthy a lot of the time. You know, there were these grand estates. If you're completely out of the loop, very recently I did a replay, or here on YouTube, an abridged playthrough of the whole Cantha story. So you'll see these places and you'll know what I'm talking about. The playlist is on my channel page. Or, in particular, the capital city of this island was a big monastery called the Xingji Monastery. And that was basically a school for new adventurers. When you made a new character in Guild Wars 1, that was where you started. And that is what I think this screenshot is depicting here. I think the devs very precisely decided to give us the first glimpse of this X-Pack, being basically the first thing you see when you make a new Guild Wars 1 character. When you log into the factions campaign, you're on the other side of a bridge with a choice to do a tutorial or not, facing the monastery. Where this camera is on this screenshot, I'll throw it on screen again for you guys, we're like in the air above that. And this is just kind of the Guild Wars 2 interpretation. Shaman actually did a really good tweet. If you're not following me out on Twitter, you really should be, where he kind of compared like A, B, and I think he's totally right. It's definitely changed a bit moving into Guild Wars 2, but I think that's what we're looking at. Of course, it's going to feel very different going there in the sequel, because now we can actually jump, and that means we can climb around these cliffs, and if mounts are enabled, then we can definitely do a lot of things on those as well. I've got another comment about that in a second. That's where I think it is. I don't think the devs are playing around with anything else. And actually, just to give you guys a very overall take from me, this comment here from Sean Murphy was the first thing that struck me too. They already had most of the assets needed to make that map since long ago. And we have Mandela here saying, WP, what are your thoughts on how similar the assets in this screenshot are to the Fractal? I remember when the Fractal was released, the devs were saying it wasn't going to be the exact thematic for Cantha, but it appears with this screenshot that the feel of the Fractal matches it almost exactly. Do you think we can expect more diversity, or is this just what we're going to get? Just a bunch of Eastern-influenced spring shrubbery elements placed on what would otherwise be a pretty typical Tyrian landscape. Well, I think that second comment is far more critical than I would be, but I get where all these messages are coming from. Don't get me wrong, it's super exciting and it's fantastic and it's a new map, but it does feel a bit, how best can I put this, living worldy almost, you know? Like, this is what I would expect a living world Cantha map to look like. It's a lot more like Sunqua Peak than I thought. I've seen a ton of you guys compare it to Verdant Brink, and I totally see that too. And kind of these rock formations and cliff formations we see all over the place in Guild Wars 2, especially since the first expansion. I guess the thing that underwhelmed me a little bit was just that it didn't look super different. There's obviously a few new assets there, but I kind of want more. And it's not that I actually lack confidence in End of Dragons. I'm sure that it will look gorgeous and there's lots of beautiful different places for us to go. It's just that they picked this specific area not because it's the most gorgeous area, not because it's the most captivating or filled with new assets. And I mean, look at how well they did with both Heart of Thorns and POF in giving us new environments and a sense of places to go. They will do this. They didn't pick this screenshot for those reasons, but because it's the Guild Wars 1 connection. That was the first vista we got in the first game, and now they're giving us almost the exact same place in the second game. And it's really more about that than it's about this being some massive aesthetic bomb. I mean, look at the image. You can see on the back right there, you can actually see a game's render distance engine bug. I haven't really seen anyone talking about this, but you see that really vast sheer cliff there? That's a bug. That doesn't actually exist. If you guys spent any time with Guild Wars 2 Hook and playing with the in-game fog slider so you can really push your draw distance out, if you look at the way Guild Wars 2 works and the kind of popping it has, you'll see these massive fake cliffs everywhere that dissolve away as you get a little bit closer. They're supposed to be obscured by the fog. In this shot here, the fog is actually very minimal, so we're actually looking at a rendering issue back there, though I think most people wouldn't necessarily recognize that unless they'd been playing around with the engine in some ways. So yeah, just some immediate thoughts from me. We'll run into some of your takes, and they're not all on aesthetics. Like, for example, this. Jesus Rosado says, Xingji is looking very mount friendly, so probably that design will follow on subsequent maps. When I first saw this screenshot, I didn't even think of that, but it's totally valid that we can look at the kind of movement available here and guess at what the devs might be planning with mounts. And it's funny, the first time I saw the community talking about this, it was actually the reverse opinion that I've just highlighted on the video here. It was someone saying, wow, look at how close and cluttered and claustrophobic it is. We definitely won't be getting mounts on this one. And so I don't know whether we can draw a hard line in the sand and say, oh, this definitely is a mount area. Like, consider this, guys. Could you really tell from, say, all the core maps that they were designed to not have mounts? If Queensdale didn't exist yet and it was somehow coming with End of Dragons and they had made it exactly like Queensdale was implemented and it was not meant for mounts and you saw those big open fields, well, we'd say, well, that's meant to be mount content, wouldn't we? And it does work with mounts, but the truth is that wasn't what they had in mind when they made it. So that could be true, and then the reverse could be true as well. One of the more common topics we've had on End of Dragons Daily is how they'll handle mounts in this expansion. And more as time goes forwards, I think that there will be mounts, but they'll probably add like parallel acquisition methods for you, or they'll do a lot of mount rental stuff. It just seems really weird to me that they might do, say, roller beetle races in Cantha, you know, even around here on Xingji. And most people don't get it if they've just newly bought the expansion, because not only didn't they have Path of Fire, but they don't have the specific corner release played in Path of Fire as well. That's just so weird. And it's even weirder when you think about like the Sky Scale, which breaks and changes gameplay and environment exploration so much. And the Sky Scale's got the same thing, except now it's like this huge collection tied only to one Living World episode that itself only unlocks once you beat the episode, which is like going to spoil a lot of the stories that are midway going on if you're just skipping towards that point. And then the collection itself is like this long, expensive process. So, you know, I think there's a lot the devs have got to figure out here, and just looking at a picture of the environment really conjures all these discussions in my mind. And I know it has been for you guys as well. I've seen a lot of people asking me to return to the topic. So maybe give me your thoughts down below. A very cute take here from Banjo that made me realize something I hadn't been thinking about at all. They said, and they've commented a lot on recent. Nothing to say about the screenshot apart from the fact that there's a bench in the middle, somewhere to sit and watch travelers / take a break. This is actually kind of a great observation, guys. Do you know what I've just realized? This will be the first full-featured expansion where they actually have, like, the chairs stuff in-game. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that, to have a lot more things I can interact with the environment. Maybe they can change up the way that vistas work to a certain degree. I think about, like, when the Icebrood Saga started, and we had that moment where we actually sit on a chair to watch the Bangar presentation thing in Grothmar. That was pretty cool, and imagine like a whole expansion that can also now leverage little moments and cute things like this. Not a dramatic observation, but one I never would have had without you guys in the comments. That's a cool thought. I kind of phrased something a bit stupidly on the previous part that I want to sort of take back here. Sean says, WP, you mentioned End of Dragons being a crunched expansion, but I'm confused why you think that. The time between Heart of Thorns and POF was 23 months. During that time, they released consistent quality patches in all of Season 3. The End of Dragons X-Pack trailer came out in August 2020, and it will be roughly 18 months or so from that trailer that the X-Pack comes out, with very minimal new content during that time. And you have to assume they had at least a bit of work on the X-Pack prior to the trailer release, so it's safe to assume a similar development timeframe as Path of Fire, with basically the entire studio focused solely on End of Dragons this time. I guess I expect more development time on this one, and if it doesn't feel like a larger expansion, the sudden butchering of what started as a quality saga is going to feel so much worse. Look, you are totally right here. Now that the delay has been announced, the truth is, I think that it's got plenty of space and the whole studio working on it to really shine and be a great product. I agree with that completely. And, you know, I actually think that there's even more reason to be excited than most people realize, particularly the comparisons that you've made here. And that's that Path of Fire, it's unbelievably good. But people who are established in the community have really lost sight of how good, because of its specific meta event and reward scheme design that kind of means you forget about a lot of that content. I think a lot of us remember Heart of Thorns and where the bar is there because we are spending so much time there. The Path of Fire philosophy is like a knee-jerk reaction to the Heart of Thorns criticisms, has left that generally desolate, and it's easy to kind of forget how much they managed to do with POF in that time frame while doing Season 3. You know, if they just get to the same level POF was at, with some different philosophies that keep us in the End of Dragons maps for longer and so on, I think it will be an astounding expansion, and that's just hitting the POF bar, let alone what other developments technologically or, you know, with it structurally within the company might have occurred over the past few years, and the fact that, as you say, the Icebrood Saga was gutted. They're not focusing on the live game to the same extent they were during Season 3 at all. That's a lot of headroom. In truth, I think I'm probably a lot more optimistic than might be reasonable. It's why I can look at today's big topic, the screenshot, and say, well, you know, this specific shot might not have blown me away, but still be confident that the rest of it will. Speaking of not being blown away, this is the #1 community criticism. This did not come across my mind even remotely, but I completely accept that it's valid. So many people have talked about it. Clayton, I'll just pick one out of many, says, I've heard a lot of mixed responses to this screenshot of Cantha. The grass saturation feeling too high, for example. I think although Guild Wars 2 doesn't always look very modern, their environmental design is absolutely top notch, and I'm confident Cantha will look beautiful. Sunqua Peak doesn't count exactly, but if Cantha looks anywhere near it in quality, I'll be satisfied. I also don't think that an in-game screenshot can fully capture the game, since it almost always looks better in-game. Yeah, I agree with that. So that is the big thing that people think about. There's a tack on here as well, which is another big bomb from Pink Pirate, who says, someone wrote on Reddit that the file properties of the screenshot, so they were looking at the metadata, I remember this comment when it first came out, is actually a screenshot from a trailer for the X-Pack. Probably some MP4 or FLV file, so it probably wasn't taken within the game. Right, so yes, if you are in the camp where you think this looks oversaturated or the colors look off or whatever, I would encourage you guys to think about this trailer thing. What the devs seem to have done is they have a trailer for End of Dragons. They even had like the date that the trailer was made, by the way, the trailer file was made. Like we know that it was sometime the end of last month or something. What they've done is they've taken a single frame from that looks pretty, and they've put it on the blog post. And the frame that they've picked is the one that looks, you know, basically matches up with where we started our adventure in Xingji. That is the thought process that went behind this screenshot. I don't think that there was an amazing amount of color correction and post-processing and, you know, real care and thought about like the absolute most mind-blowing frame that they could do. I think they probably want to save a lot of that stuff for the rest of the trailer. I think all of this we'll be seeing on the stream at the end of the month. So look, if you feel like the saturation or whatever's off here, don't forget you're looking at a screenshot of an already processed video, which is already from what was captured in game, and it might look a little bit strange. Personally, I think the saturation looks fine. You know, they really started bumping up the post-processing and doing a lot more vibrant and a lot more contrast did stuff when Path of Fire came out, and I'm sure that they'll still be playing with that once End of Dragons goes along. With the DirectX 11 update, and hopefully they'll be looking at the shaders and all the weird wriggles and bugs and issues that currently exist in the game, you might find that even if this trailer is perfectly representative of the vast majority of End of Dragons visuals, which it totally isn't, but if it was, you might find that they change a lot of that with DirectX 11 and they play around a lot once that's actually implemented later on anyway. So yes, this is a frame from a trailer. Don't worry too much. Alright, I've actually still got a few takes here from you guys that we can probably put into the next video. So let's have this as a twofer. Tomorrow, one more on the visuals of this. Anything that you still feel like I'm missing? I mean, maybe some of it's covered by these other messages. I do want to round out the video with just a kind of a nice positive sentiment. There's so much of this going around at the moment, and I do want to like highlight and make sure you guys know that I've read some of it. Kyle Blake says, "Hey WP, first I'd like to say thanks for the dedication to the game. I was put off by decisions the studios were making around autumn and Christmas time last year, if I recall correctly, and I quit playing. After a month or so of watching the videos again, I'm hooked and really surprised and impressed with the decisions the studio is now making. I was working towards Exordium as my first legendary. I'm excited to get back to it now the armory's out. Thanks for the ongoing enthusiasm. It's contagious in a great way." Well, look, I really appreciate that, and look, I think a lot of people do feel this. You know, maybe for you it was the end of the Icebrood saga where you really felt crushed, but to be honest, a lot of this time through the Icebrood saga years, a lot of stuff since even the back half, I would say, of season 4, as high quality and as amazing as that was, I think we've been in a really rough place, and it is quite incredible, to be honest, these past 2 months, something like that, how much things are swinging around. And you know, I've been there through all the bad times, I'll be there through the good ones as well, and we'll just keep talking about End of Dragons and see how it is. So thanks guys, please do continue to share the videos and support what I'm doing in any way if you do enjoy it, and I will be back tomorrow for a little bit more of this discussion. As I say, remember, there's the streams that will be going on. You can check those out. I did recommend watching the just Cantha abridged playthrough earlier on the video, so maybe you want to go check that video out. And yeah, there's like 12 hours. There's actually like 17 hours of new Wooden Potatoes content on my second channel, Wooden Potatoes 2, which as well you can get to just from my main channel. So anyway, if you guys are hard up for stuff to watch and enjoy as you grind away, or you're at work or doing whatever, have fun with it, and I'll see you for the next one very soon. Take care, guys.